What's going on YouTube? I'm Nick the Tutor, and this channel is about raising your SAT, ACT, and AP scores. In today's video, I'm going to discuss the 5 easiest and 5 hardest AP tests to get a 5 on. I've done a great video in the past about the easiest and hardest AP classes, but today I'm going to focus on the tests themselves and how possible it is for you to get a 5 on the exam. So let's get into it. All right, guys, so like I said, what I'm focusing on today is the test itself, the percentages of 5s, 4s, 3s, 2s, and 1s, and also the general difficulty of the exam so that you know what test you can achieve a 5 on, because this is important, right? This is just dollars and cents. If you get 5s on a lot of APs, you're going to gain college credits and you're going to save yourself a lot of money. So super important stuff, and let's get into it. So number one, first thing I want to discuss will be the 5 easiest tests to get a 5 on. Number one, I want to talk about BC CALC. Now, you're probably like, Nick, you're bugging, bro. BC CALC is not one of the easiest tests to get a 5 on. If you disagree, drop a comment below. I'd love to debate it. But the reason I'm putting that on my list is that it's very favorable in terms of the percentage of students that do get a 5. Even though this class is several semesters of college level math, basically around 50% of the students that take it get a 5. So if you're taking the class, you're basically a 50-50 to get a 5, and that's awesome, right? So that's what makes it one of the easier tests to get a 5 on. What's more is that 80% of the students pass the class by getting a 3, a 4, or a 5. So literally 80% of students are in line for some kind of college credit, probably mostly the 4s and 5s, but still some of the 3s. That's kind of crazy, man. 80%. That's why it's on my list, and obviously debate me in the comments below. I'd love to talk about it. My next one is another shocker. Physics, C, electricity, and magnetism. Now, a lot of you are also probably like, that's one of the hardest classes. And yes, it is one of the hardest AP classes, but once again, the AP itself, we're looking at 30% 5s. So really great probability that you are able to achieve a 5 if you do study for the exam. Similarly to BC CALC, guys, you're looking at about 80% passing. So 80% 3s, 4s, and 5s. Which is always awesome because you're looking at a positive result for a majority of the students. So that's why it's number 2 on my list. All right, number 3, guys, computer science A. Now, a lot of people might say that's a bit of a difficult course. I know in my last video, there was a huge debate about computer science A. Is it easy? Is it hard? Definitely comment below and let me know what you think. But this is another one that's going to be on the easy list because of the massive percentage of passing grades, 3s, 4s, and 5s. You're looking at 65% of students passing. Now, I also want to add that I feel this course would be greatly beneficial for anyone to take because it teaches you some valuable skills. I guess if you have a good teacher, you're going to learn a little bit about coding, and that's hugely valuable. So I think in terms of obviously the test being easy, that's one thing, but also the value you're going to get could launch you towards a very successful career in computer science or computer engineering or whatever the case may be. Obviously, we all know, coding and computers and apps and everything are the way of the world now. So if you can get yourself involved in that kind of career path, you're good. All right, next on the list, guys, for CompGov, Comparative Government and Politics, a course that is notably on the rise in the AP ranks. Wasn't a very popular course several years ago. I guess because the way everything's going in the world and how politicized things are, this course is becoming increasingly popular, and the more people that take it, the more people are starting to like it. And another reason to like it is that you do have a 20% chance of getting a 5, which is awesome. Similarly to the computer science courses, you are looking at a 65% pass rate for the exam, which is astronomical, and that's really awesome. So that's another reason it's on the easiest list. All right, last on my list of easiest AP exams will be CALC AB. I know we had CALC BC. CALC AB is like the little brother. It's pretty good in terms of the 5s. You're looking at about 25% 5s on that exam. Beyond that, you're still looking at a pass rate of about 60%, which is good. It's the lowest on this list, but it's also pretty high. I want you guys to sound off in the comments below, man. I know I'm picking some courses that are very hard, but what we want to achieve is the 3, the 4, the 5, or especially the 5. So we're looking at the percentages. What are my chances? And that's what I'm looking at here. If you disagree, let me know. All right, now we're going to move into the hardest APs to get 5s on, and we're going to be focusing once again on the percentages and the difficulty of the exams. Now, let's talk about Physics 1, number 1 on my list. Even though this is what you would say is lower level physics compared to the other physics classes, it's mostly algebra based and kinematics. You're looking at only 5% of students approximately achieving a 5 on the exam, which is crazy low. low. Now, if you also want to talk about the overall pass rate of 3s, 4s, and 5s, for this exam, you're talking about 40%, which I believe is the lowest. That is tough, right? Most students will fail this AP. That's not good. That's why it's number 1 on my list of hardest APs. Number 2 would be environmental science. Now, most people would say that's an easy class, and I would probably agree. Most people would say that's an easy subject, and I think I would agree with that as well. Let me know if you disagree in the comments, but I think what I'm going for here also is the percentages of 5s are just crazy low. You're looking at 7% 5s on this exam and a very low pass rate, so that's why it's number 2. Even though it may be one of the easiest AP classes, it's one of the hardest AP exams. All right, guys, number 3 on the list of hardest APs to receive a 5 on, we have world history. Now, world history is tough because it's only available to 9th graders or typically taken by 9th graders. And for a lot of the 9th graders out there, shout out to all the 9th graders, it's their first AP. And because of that, I think they struggle a little bit, you guys struggle a little bit adapting to the AP style and the AP test, and that results in poor performance. There are a very small number of 5s given out on that test. I think it's like 7 or 8%, and only about half the people that take the test pass, which means a 3 or above. That's pretty low, and that's why it's on my list of hardest APs. Most people would consider it a pretty easy class, and I would tend to agree, but that differs from getting a 5 on the AP. Now, let's move on to number 4, which is Euro history. Very similar to world history. Euro mostly for 10th graders, maybe not the most experienced with APs. Also, a lot of facts to remember for that class. We're looking at very similar stats, something like 6 to 7% 5s, which is pretty low considering what we saw in some of the easier tests, and also about half passing. Now, the problem is, once again, ton of facts to remember, not a lot of AP experience, and generally a poor distribution of scores for you students. There's also a lot of people taking these tests, so it makes it very competitive, and that's why it's on the hardest list, even though the class is probably pretty easy. Now, our last one is English Lit. Now, a lot of you are probably saying, Nick, I think that's a pretty easy class. Comment below if you think it's easy, but the reason it's on the list is, once again, a poor distribution of 5s. Now, I want to add, this is a challenging exam. It really requires you to be very thoughtful and attentive when you're reading and writing. It also tests your ability to answer things quickly. A lot of students have said in the past they didn't feel like the exam gave them enough time. Now, the reason that this is hard is because you must write 3 logically sound essays on works that you've never seen before in a very short amount of time, in 2 hours, and that is very difficult for a lot of students to pull off, and therefore you're looking at a 7% rate of 5s, which is pretty tough. Look, guys, I know this video has been kind of crazy and mind-blowing to a lot of you. Comment below, let me know if you think I'm correct or I'm totally bugging. I love to hear from you guys. I want you guys to check out my other video, which was about the top 5 easiest and hardest APs from the perspective of students in the class, not the tests. Check it out now.